Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Hey, folks, today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm here, Chicago O'Hare Airport, after speaking earlier today at a business conference in Milwaukee. On today's show, Republicans in Tarrant County, Texas, they continue to try to steal the election. They're eliminating more than 100 voting locations, including on college campuses. We'll talk with the Tarrant County Commissioner, who's been opposing those efforts every step of the way. Also on today's show, Chuck Rocha has some tough words for white Democratic strategists. He says they are the problem, and it's time to get rid of those folks, or they're going to cause Democrats to continue to lose elections. California Congressman Ro Khanna is saying that he's addressing the Teamsters, saying that Democrats should be doing more for the working class, but a lot of people are pushing back, saying they did that and the Teamsters still screwed them. An appeals court in New York throws out the $500 million judgment, the civil judgment against Donald Trump. He is claiming victory, but he is still a convicted felon. Also, folks, on today's show, we'll pay tribute to Vivian Ayers, the mother of Debbie Allen and Felicia Rashad, who passed away at the age of 102. It's a lot for us to talk about. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
Folks, Republicans in Texas continue to try to cheat. Tarrant County, Texas is an example. Now understand, Tarrant County is the largest major county in Texas that Republicans still control. Dallas County, Bexar County, Harris County, as well as Travis County, they are Democratic counties, and so they're trying to hold on. And so the county judge in Tarrant County did what the Republicans in Austin have been doing, a mid-decade redistricting to eliminate a county commissioner seat of an African American. Now they voted to actually eliminate more than 100 early voting locations, including on all college campuses. University of Texas at Arlington, a major student population there. They're taking the vote location off of that campus. This is all a matter of them trying to cheat. And Elisa Simmons has been critical of them, and she actually went at it with the county commissioner at Commissioner's Court. Check out this exchange.
Well, what I don't appreciate are the games and the lack of transparency from you, Clint, and from you, Mr. Merritt. And what I don't appreciate is these people coming down here, parking, spending their time, leaving their jobs, whatever, to be disrespected when over 100 people tell us what to do and one says no. We do what they tell us to do. We were elected by them. Y'all are disrespectful to our constituents.
And your disrespect for our staff is one of the most abhorrent things I have ever seen. Be quiet now.
They don't have to be quiet.
Be quiet.
They can respond.
Yes, you do. Remove
they
him.
Can respond. Yeah.
And you know what? When I have the microphone, I have the ability. So you love. Excuse me.
He's got to throw people out.
No,
disrespectful of these people who have paid to park, come down here, taking their time to tell us how to do their business. These are taxpayers.
And you are constantly calling our staff members liars, questioning their integrity over and over and over.
If they lie,
would you do me a favor?
Lie.
I'll let you speak. Would you do the same for me?
Okay, I'll speak after you.
So, of course you will. You can never stop.
Folks, Commissioner Simmons joins us right now. Glad to have you back on the show. Let's talk about the early voting locations. You talk about slashing. I mean, they're slashing and burning. So they are reducing the overall number of polling locations. Early voting is going, what, from 44 to 24, some 45% decrease. What's the logic? What rationale have they actually given as to why they're slashing voting locations for the upcoming special election?
The rationale is that the constitutional amendment elections are low voter turnout elections. And so that's the rationale. But I contend, hell, that all elections are low voter turnout elections. So that and cost savings, although there were no dollars and cents really spoken about except what I pointed out, and that is that we have enough money to take care of contract labor, and that's what it takes to staff and man these polling locations. So we have more money in the budget than we had in the 2023 constitutional election. So that's their rationale. The reason I was focused on the election administrator is because he did not do any due diligence. First of all, how is the elections administrator the one choosing the polling places? That doesn't happen in Tarrant County. The elected officials make sure we know our precincts better than anybody. Nobody knows precinct 2 better than I do. How did the elections administrator get the authority to eliminate polling places in precinct 2, precinct 1, 3, 4? And so no due diligence was done. I asked him, I said, how'd you come up with these numbers? Well, ma'am, I've been looking at these numbers. How long? Oh, off and on for 6, 7, 8 months. I said, okay. So you didn't come to my office.
First of all, Commissioner, I want to add this here. So first of all, for the people who don't understand, it's been a back and forth. The county judge cannot stand your guts. He throws people out if they say anything. He rules the commissioner's court like a dictator. And he led this effort to get rid of your seat. And then what he's doing also, what he's also doing is, again, he can't stand the fact they have a 3-2 majority. He wants a 4-1 majority. And what's crazy here is you remove an early voting location off of a college campus, and when you look at the numbers, that's one of the highest voter turnout. And so what Republicans are trying to do here, and this is what I keep saying all the time, their strategy is very simple. They believe if they can shrink the vote, they can actually win elections. They don't want more people voting. They don't want more access to the ballot. They actually want a smaller access to the ballot because they believe that helps them win.
That's right. And they've said it. That county judge, who is unhinged and only sits in that seat to advance the Republican agenda, the MAGA agenda, not even regular Republicans. He has said it. He has said exactly what we don't need as many people to vote. We can't win if more people vote. And they know they certainly can't win in 2026, after Trump decimates this country and after Abbott continues to tear up this state and after this judge tears up this county. So they say it here out loud. You don't have to guess.
Right. And the thing here, again, and one of the things that we continue to say, though, is what we say to the public. This is what happens when we don't vote. This is what happens when we don't show up to Commissioner's Court, when we're not standing with you, we're not putting pressure on these folks. And so they are able to do what they do. You've got a crazed, deranged MAGA sheriff. You've got people who are dying in that jail, and he gets reelected. You've got a crazy, deranged district attorney in Tarrant County who continues to go after a black woman for what they claim to be illegal voting. That case is almost 8 years old. And so the only way to stop these people is to do it at the ballot box. And even though they're putting these barriers in place, cutting polling locations, people have got to turn out in huge numbers, especially African Americans. Otherwise, they're going to keep this crap up.
They're going to keep it up. There is only so much I can do. Me and Commissioner Roderick Miles, we are 2 votes of a 5-member body. Anything we propose, any initiative, any thought, anything is going to get voted down. Nothing will change in this county or in any of your counties and cities and states unless you flip the balance of power. And the only way to do that is to get these people to the polls. And you need to start practicing now, for example, in Texas with this constitutional amendments election. Get people to the polls to vote on those constitutional amendments. Just get them in the habit of going to the polls all the time, not just during presidential elections. There's nothing, they are in control. They are in control. They're lockstep. And until we get in here, get people to the polls and take this country back, take this county back, take these cities and school boards back, this is what we get.
And again, anybody, we've had you on before, if anybody looks at Commissioner's Court, I mean, this man, the county judge, he is a tyrant. He is a dictator. He is a petulant child. That's who he is. That's his behavior. And here's what's crazy. They redrew these lines, hired a law firm, and to screw Democrats, to screw you and others, and taxpayers are paying for this. That's what's so crazy here. They are using taxpayer dollars to drive a right-wing Republican agenda.
That's right. And they're using taxpayer dollars to fight the litigation. There have now been 2 lawsuits filed in the Tarrant County redistricting case. A second one was filed last week by LULAC and the League of Women Voters. And so that's taxpayer money that has to pay for yet a second lawsuit, and I expect a third lawsuit. You all are paying for Republican shenanigans. You are paying for this. And with regard to the polling places, how do you slash polling places? This is going to cause voter confusion. This is discrimination, not just against African American people and Hispanic people, but senior citizens, college students, working families. When you cut these traditional polling places for no reason at all, there is not a substantial cost savings. If that were the case, there's a fire station near my house. They don't run on a fire every day. Should we shut it down because it's underutilized? I mean, these people will make up anything. They want me to believe this was the election administrator's decision. That guy is terrified to do anything in opposition to what this unhinged.
But Commissioner, here's the deal. I cover county government. Okay, the election administrator cannot make an arbitrary decision, and the reality is the commissioner's court can overrule any decision of the election administrator. That's just BS.
That's what I said. So I made a motion to reject those lists. I made another motion to table this discussion. We have plenty of time to put this on the next agenda. Let the elections administrator get us some data, some analysis. I asked him, what was your methodology? What did you, he says, it's all over my desk. I'd have to put together. You don't have a report for us? What are you presenting to us? Just some lists. Unheard of. Lack of professionalism. And he was just doing what he was told by this county judge. And so that's what that was. And we spent 3 hours of a commissioner's court meeting on this one item. All we had to do was table it, go back, get briefed, give our input as commissioners, all commissioners, and come back on September 3rd and vote on revised list. At this meeting, we did, one of the commissioners, one of the guys, MAGA guys, said, well, I would like to add some polling places. And so he added 5, and I said, well, hell, since we adding, I've got some polling places I'd like to add back into the list. And so we added back only 9 to the early voting list and the election day list, only 9. But that form was not the place to do it. It was a mess.
Got it. All right, Commissioner Simmons, keep up the good fight. It's a daily battle having to deal with these crazy, deranged MAGA folks there in Texas.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's a daily battle.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed. Their kids are not being taken care of. But that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Folks, is bringing my panel, of course, Dr. Nola Haynes. She is, of course, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service out of D.C., Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University out of D.C. as well, Joy Cheney, founder of Joy Strategist out of D.C. Glad to have all 3 of you here. Joy, I'll start with you. Bottom line is this here. I made this point to the commissioner. We don't have Joy there, but that's fine. Let me know when she joins us. Yeah, this is real simple. This is real simple, Greg. We cannot sit out elections. These people are able to do what they do because we are not mobilized, we are not organized, we are not maximizing our power, and the numbers are there. Okay, the number of registered Democrats in Texas actually outnumber registered Republicans, but you have massive numbers of people who are Black and Latino who simply are not registered to vote, and people are accepting of this. And these people, they are tyrants, they are dictators, they are petulant children, and the only way to break their backs is you have to do it at the ballot box. And so that's why it offends me when I listen to any of these idiot Black folks talk about, oh, your vote don't matter, your vote don't count, you wasting your time actually doing that, when these people are exercising raw power to destroy so many of our lives.
Yes, they are. I'm encouraged by the way that naked white supremacist talks. Shut up. Be quiet. remove them. You see, anyone with any basic decency, sense of self, will respond to that. We can ignore and should ignore rather than trying to argue with those who would say your vote doesn't count. Some of those people are simply worn down by this type of activity. Others are probably operatives, quite frankly. And then there's, of course, the factor of ignorance. But it's not enough collectively to stop us from doing what we need to do. As Commissioner Simmons was talking, as y'all were having a conversation, I was thinking, as you remove polling places from college campuses, I can't speak to the students there, but I can certainly speak to the students that I have. That's the type of thing that would have those students organize and walk to wherever the polling district is. I'm very encouraged by Commissioner Simmons. I think that as we see elected officials all over the country, including there in Texas, begin to match that energy, that's how you break their backs. These people are not colleagues. These people should not be treated with respect. These people are open enemies of our common humanity. And once you have that in place as a morality play, you have gained the energy that we saw with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We've got real enemies, and we should treat them as enemies. So I want that commissioner to keep talking the way he's talking, because that might get enough people together, if we can get our act together, to remove him forever from any notion of political power. That might be what it takes, Roland.
The thing for me, Nola, is too many folks are complacent. They're complacent. They're not active, and they'll complain. They'll say, "Oh, this is a doggone shame," but they actually won't do it. And listen, you have a special election taking place in November, but you've got more elections taking place in 2026. I am telling people they need to be right now. There should be constant town halls and gatherings. And I always talk about how the strategy has to be inform, enlighten, and educate. It has to be there. We see what's happening in Tarrant County. We see what's happening in the state capitol in Austin, Texas. We see what's happening in the nation's capital. If people are not focused and motivated to change this, and with the craziness happening, you got dumbass Donald Trump talking about he's going to be traveling with the National Guard around D.C. tonight. And then I don't know what the hell is going to get people to get off their asses and do something to change it.
I talk to a lot of young folks.
You're on mute.
And I'm not on mute.
Okay, now we have you. Now we got you.
Not on mute.
Okay, now we got you. Go.
I was not on mute. Just FYI. You use two very important words: enlighten and motivate. The young folks who I talk to, they're like, enough already with the dire messages. Enough already with telling us that the world is on fire, democracy's hanging over a cliff. What about something that's going to get us motivated, get us excited, get us energized? Greg made a really good point about match that energy. Yes, that plays really well. The base is saying that right now. Yes, you got to get in there and you got to put foot on neck. But in addition to that, there has to be something else beyond just countering Trump, beyond countering MAGA. What are voters being offered? What are they being motivated to get from their homes, their safe havens, and stop watching YouTube and go out to vote? Because a lot of young folks, I can tell you, they just think it's all the same. So with that information, with that data, that tells me, yes, it's a messaging issue, but it's larger than that. Because like you said, it's about motivation, and it is not motivating to constantly tell people, give them these dire messages. We got to do something else.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Joy. It's very simple. Okay, we can talk about messaging all we want to, but those very same people are seeing things being taken away. They're seeing Medicaid being taken away. They're seeing student loan debt relief being taken away. They're seeing the impact of tariffs. They're seeing prices go up. So at some point, people are going to have to recognize that they have to also be self-motivating to actually change something.
I think that's right. I mean, the only thing I would say different than what Nolan was saying was that, yes, we need to have a positive affirmative message that says this is what you're voting for, right? But the best thing we have going for us sometimes is the cravenness of this Trump administration and their acolytes, federal, state, local. We benefited from their stupidity previously in his first term. Now we're benefiting from his overreach. He is making the case for us more than we could ever do ourselves. We told them this was going to happen. There was plenty of evidence. He told them it was going to happen. But there is nothing like seeing it yourself. Your family losing your Medicaid, you losing your job, your business closing, your polling place closing, your favorite district or member being disfranchised or gerrymandered out. That's where we are. They are overreaching. And now what we have to do, Democrats have to do, is use the space that has been given to come in with a positive message that highlights what they're doing, fights back, and gives people something to fight for.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you right now, as long as people are sitting out, they're going to run the table. As long as they have the power, they're going to attack. And folks had better understand that it's not just in D.C., it's not just in Texas, it's happening elsewhere. Right now, let's talk about Missouri, what's happening there. Republicans are trying to redistrict there. They want to wipe out the congressional district of Congressman Emanuel Cleaver. They want that entire state to be red. What Donald Trump has been doing is telling red states, yo, change your maps, change your maps. And so now we're seeing that take place in Texas. Today in California, the legislature passed the measure of California Governor Newsom. Now it's going to go to the voters to actually vote on changing the maps there as well. But again, what Republicans are trying to do, they want to change the maps. You see what happened in Texas is pick up seats. They want to do it in Missouri. They want to do it in Ohio. They want to do it in Florida as well. And so these things are continuing to mount and mount and mount. Joining us right now are a couple of guests, State Representatives Mark Sharp and David Tyson Smith. Glad to have both of you here. So give us a sense, first of all, Mark, I want to start with you. Give us a sense, what is their plan in Missouri? If you pull up the map in Missouri, it's a lot of red. You got a couple of blue spaces there. But Republicans there, they want to wipe out the Democrats, including Congressman Cleaver. They want to wipe out the black member of Congress in St. Louis, Wesley Bell, and they want to wipe out Cleaver in Kansas City.
Well, the plan right now, thanks for having us on, Roland. The plan right now for Democrats in Missouri is to make sure that we're making the right phone calls, the right emails, organizing, having these meetings, as it was said earlier on your show, having these rallies to show just exactly how heinous and how atrocious what the Trump administration is asking of Missouri Republicans. And this is just completely egregious, and it goes against even Republican values from just 4 years ago, or just 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, first of all, let's just be real clear, David, and I'm real clear. These Republicans, they have no morals, they have no values, no principles, no ethics, no integrity, no credibility. They don't care. They'll do whatever the hell it is that they want to do, and so it does not matter. That's what you see going on right here. And so they will exercise raw power, and when their dear leader, their cult leader tells them to do it, then they're going to follow.
Absolutely, Roland. You're absolutely right, and thanks for having us on. You know, and I say to my Republican colleagues, it's time to have courage. It's time to have valor. You know, everyone walks around the state capitol as if they're statesmen. Now is the time to do the right thing. Everybody knows it's wrong. These Republicans know it's wrong. They go home at night, they talk to their wives, they know it's wrong. They have got to do the right thing and stand up, because we're going to say no, and we're going to stand up, and we're going to do everything we can to put an end to this. We're not going to lay down and let them just roll over the state like this and use Missouri as their puppet.
Okay, so what can you do? We saw in Texas where if Democrats in the Senate had the guts, all 11 would walk out so they can break quorum. We saw in the House as well. listen, the Republicans control your legislature. Is there anything that y'all can actually do legislatively to stop this from happening?
Well, thanks for the question, Roland. The Republicans have already showed their demonstration to roll over Democrats in either chamber, whether it's the House or in the Senate. And just most recently, at the end of our last regular session, they used the previous question technique to kill off debate and to end filibusters on several bills where they're overturning the will of the people on previous statewide votes. So they've already demonstrated they have no problem doing that. And without that filibuster technique that we have in the Senate, it's going to be pretty tough to stop anything that's coming our way if a special session is called. And again, we want to ask and urge Governor Kehoe and other Republican leaders, as the Speaker in the House, John Patterson, to really reconsider. I mean, Missouri Democrats and Republicans have had really good working relationships over the past 5 or 6 sessions that I've been in Jeff sitting. Passing something like this is the nuclear option. It'll be nearly impossible for Democrats to work with Republicans in the upcoming future sessions.
So what are your options then? Is it just to rally people and hope and appeal to these folks' goodwill? I mean, that doesn't work. I mean, they are going to do whatever Trump tells them to do. So what are the options here? Is it to hope the courts, like in Texas, hope the courts intervene?
That is an option, but there's something else we can do, Roland. The civil rights movement worked because we hit people in the pocketbook, right? And you're absolutely right. They're not going to do the right thing out of the tenderness of their hearts or out of a searing of conscience. What we need to do is we need to take a stand and say, you know what? If this passes, we're voting no on virtually every bill that comes down the pipe after that, because they need Democrat votes on a lot of bills. There's a lot of money moving through that bill. And if we say, you know what, if you're going to do this, we're voting no on the things you want, the things you consider priorities, to wake them up. And when people start losing money, then they'll come to their senses.
So here's the question then, and it has to be put on the table. And that is, are your white Democratic lawmakers going to do that? I mean, the problem in Texas was you had a lot of these white Democratic lawmakers who said they were only going to sit out for one session. It wasn't going to be longer than that. Then they were all going back. And so how is the Black Caucus there in Missouri? What are you saying to the members that, guys, listen, the way, and look, Dr. King talked about it in his last sermon on April 3rd, 1968, at Mason Temple, when he talked about redistribute the pain, economic withdrawal. And so do you believe there's a pathway for, frankly, your fellow Democrats, your non-Black Democrats, to actually stand with African Americans to do what you just described?
Well, I think there's a chance for that to happen, absolutely. We don't have to convince members of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus. We already know how important and what this means, and we're willing to stay in this fight for however long it takes. And the one unique thing about Missouri is we're trying to flip so many seats in the Missouri House, and a lot of these seats are 50-50 seats. So it would be a tall order for maybe some of our white counterparts in the Democrat Party to be able to hang in there and not work with our Republicans across the aisle and vote no on generally just about almost any piece of legislation that comes through. Because, like Representative Smith said, there are so many 50-50 bills that we vote on every day that, and quite frankly, require some Democrat support. So that is one option and probably our best option. Only problem is it's after the fact.
Well, again, I just think that you're right. They have to pay economically. They have to pay a price, and folks have to be willing to go to the mat. And I just don't think that there's any other way, because as long as these folks have power, as long as they are in control, and I keep saying this, and I know people get tired of me saying this, but also until you have a massive organized and mobilized resistance there in Missouri, just like in Texas and just like in Georgia, what happened there, what they did there, that's the only way you break these folks back. But they have been able to consolidate power because they've taken advantage of people not voting, sitting out elections, and then they're able, by having the power, then gerrymander the state to guarantee themselves to be able to maintain that power?
You know, Roland, one thing I'm encouraged by is, I've talked to people around the state. I talked to people in the Plaza area, which is close to where Representative Sharp represents. And we did a poll. Someone said, how many people it's your first time here? And about 40% of the hands went up. These are white people. Okay, this is not a majority of black audience. And there's a new energy out there. And people are sick of the Trump administration. It's not just a black issue. I mean, I don't believe Trump is planning on leaving the White House. And he needs the House so he can consolidate his power, as you mentioned. He cannot be allowed to keep control of the House. And I think there's so much energy out there. There's so many new faces getting involved. And it's about harnessing that energy, because I believe he can be stopped. And he needs to be stopped, because we cannot allow this man to continue his role over this country.
And look, when I say mobilize and organize, I don't mean just black people. I'm telling you, and I've said this here. I was speaking at the Milwaukee Business Council today, and I said, and it was a diverse room, and it was white folks and black folks and Latinos, Asian Americans, and I said point blank, I said, the white folks in this room, y'all are going to have to step up to make these changes. And so, listen, Fan Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's the time for white folks in Missouri to say they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and mobilize and go talk to their friends, their families, their church members and coworkers, because what these folks are doing is pure evil.
Well, just real quick, one thing. I mean, we are seeing a good combination of folks at these rallies. For example, here in my district at local IBEW, there was a crowd of 400, 500 people. A lot of them were white Democrats. And Kansas City isn't typically an area we have to worry about in Missouri. But it's going to be a challenge upon us Democrats to make sure that our message is being really enhanced across the state of Missouri, especially along the I-70 highway between Kansas City, Columbia, and St. Louis, because that's where we really have a lot of strength at.
All right, then. Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate it. Like I said to Commissioner Lisa Simmons, keep up the fight, because we need fighters on the battlefield, because it's a whole different, there's a lot of battles happening, being fought at the same time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Back to my panel, and I'll start with you, Joy, here. The point just made there are battles happening everywhere. The Republicans are doing this because they are scared to death. They are scared of losing control of the House. They do not want a Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries. They need Mike Johnson to be in control. And as I said there, it's time for white folks to rally and do what they need to do, as opposed to black folks having to always run point and have the righteous indignation and the anger. It's time for them to rise up.
Absolutely. This is an attack on them. To be clear, they are being harmed in many of these fights as well. Tariffs are closing a lot of their businesses, closing a lot of their farms. Immigration fights are doing that as well. White women who've changed their name, black women, anyone who's changed their name. We have House Republicans who passed a bill to make it more difficult for them to vote. We have a Secretary of Defense that's sharing social media out there that says they want to repeal the 19th Amendment. Now, we know those things aren't going to happen, but they could. And we have people in power who are fighting for that. This is the white Americans' problem, not just our problem. We're seeing it on streets in D.C., these streets that have been gentrified. A lot of these neighborhoods are filled with white residents. They're feeling like their neighborhoods are being overrun by a federal force, National Guard, that have no business being here. They're the ones outside protesting. I don't know if you saw the video from Union Station. Not organized protest, spontaneous protests of people furious. They see Donald Trump as the biggest threat to them, not local crime. So these are white Americans. All of us have to be in, especially them.
Yeah, look, I mean, I have made this, I've said this repeatedly, Nola. And people keep asking me, and you've hit me, and it's like, hey, what's it going to take? And I said it. I said, folk are going to have to hit rock bottom. They're going to have to, you're going to have high food prices, high tariffs. You're going to have all this sort of stuff. This stuff ain't changing until white folk realize that they're getting screwed. We know what black folks are. I still want our people maximizing our vote, but you're not going to see the change you need until these white Americans, frankly, get off their asses and say enough is enough.
And I keep thinking about the night of the election, and we were all in your studio, Roland. And once we were realizing what happened, you know, the energy shifted in the room because we knew what was about to happen. We knew the price that we would have to pay for other people's decisions. And Joy is 100,000% correct. Black people are exhausted because we knew we were going to have to clean up the mess. But this time, we cannot clean up other people's mess. You know what I'm saying? Not alone. It's going to take a lot of other folks to get us out of this situation that the majority of Black folks did not get ourselves into. And that really is part of the exhaustion. And I do think that it's time for Black folks to shake that exhaustion off. You know, for the folks who have been at home, for the folks who have been just feeling like they don't want to get involved, they don't want to think about it, 26 will be here in 5 minutes. I know that we're already in September, and it's going to be the end of the year, and 26 is going to be here. As tired and frustrated as we are, and while other Americans need to clean up their own mess, they can't do it without us. So we have to shake off the exhaustion, and we need to figure out where can we get in to help fix this problem. What I mean by that is, you know, I'm sitting here in DC. I am actually sitting here in an area where it is heavy military presence. And I'm also questioning, why in the hell am I still in the office and why am I not at home? Because it's going to be dark by the time I get home. But I'm afraid because the military's outside and Trump is rolling around because he wants to feel important like a general, right? So these are the consequences of other people's choices, but we still have to get involved. We have to brush off the exhaustion and get in this fight.
I mean, look, here's the deal, Greg. Missouri, very much a red state outside of St. Louis and Black folks there in Kansas City. And so white folks got to step up. But what I keep saying is where we have numbers, we have to maximize those numbers. And I just think that what should be happening right now, and unfortunately, I mean, I'm going to say it and I don't care. It ain't like we're seeing it from our civil rights groups. It's not like we're seeing, and I don't want to hear, oh, we got a text campaign. No, this is literally, and this is no pun intended, even though my man just dropped the remix of Boots on the Ground featuring Fantasia, but this is literally a boots on the ground thing. This is where people have to recognize this is hand-to-hand combat. This is door-to-door. This is door-to-door. This is house by house, street by street, block by block. Look at the numbers. I mean, that's what this is, and so that's what folks have to be. So when I'm making the appeal for folks to give, we know where we're going to be. We are going to hit 4, 5, 6 different cities in Virginia because, and for all the people talk about, oh, you shilling, no, y'all can kiss my ass. This is why we're going to be doing that, because it's a Black woman in Virginia where all the money runs through. That's Senator Louise Lucas. And then the Democrats control the House. It's a Black man in Don Scott who's the Speaker of the House. And then if Spanberger, she needs to be doing some Black media as well, trust me, we're going to be calling her behind, just like we're going to be calling Representative Mikey Sherrill, who ain't doing a damn thing trying to mobilize Black people in New Jersey. And so, of course, she may lose, even with the Black guy she named as a lieutenant governor who nobody knows in New Jersey. But here's the thing here. If Democrats control the House and the Senate and the governor's mansion in Virginia, then they can actually pass the measure that will automatically restore the voting rights of people who are formerly incarcerated. So no longer will it be the governor has to sign one by one. So again, I'm sitting here, I know exactly why I'm going to be doing that, because I have Black interest in doing that. But that's what we have to be seeing here. And so I want to see our groups having these forums and discussions and walking people through and doing state politics 101 and city council 101, because it's a lot of our folk who are clueless about how all this stuff works, and we are the ones who are being negatively impacted the most.
Yes, Roland, I think that's a critical function of the Black Star Network, the educational function. As you've said, and I agree completely with Joy and with Nola about the exhaustion, the fatigue, and also about the absolute necessity of pushing past that. I'm actually enthusiastic. Again, I'm very excited about where we are right now in U.S. history. Having no stake at all in the United States of America as a concept, and a complete and utter stake in the present and future of African people in this settler crime scene, and a commitment to our common humanity. If we study American history in the context of world history, we know that this was inevitable. We were human trafficked. We had to fight our way out of it. We had a little bit less than a decade of Reconstruction, and the white boys regrouped and came back. But if we trace that period, we know that it was also accompanied by the Gilded Age. It was accompanied by this extreme wealth inequality, robber barons. But what came after that? Organized labor, the Progressive Era. Then you have, of course, 2 world wars. And we returned from World War II fighting, and you had the Black Freedom Struggle. And so what we are experiencing now is the white lash, just like in the wake of Reconstruction. But as the demographic shift and the desperation rises among the white nationalists, they are actually in a weaker position now than they were in the late 19th century. What does that mean? Even as we got news yesterday from Delhi that Modi has met with a high-level delegation of China and will soon meet with Xi Jinping, as the Brazilians continue to group and regroup, as Claudia Sheinbaum continues to try to consolidate her power in in Mexico, and try to sustain that movement in the face of external pressures, mostly from the United States. The world has shifted. Now, what does that mean? Let me put the macro with what you have laid out there in terms of what we need to do at the state level, the federal level, the local level. The places where Black folk have the most influence right now in those blue states at the state level must exercise state power the way the Maryland House of Delegates manages it with the governor of Maryland. Manages it the way that, as you said, is possible in Virginia. We can pull off that governorship and combine it with Sister Lucas and move forward. In California, in Illinois, there are powers reserved to the states that the federal government has no power over. And so when you hear Representative Smith say we must now combine our political action with our economic action, what I'm telling you, Roland, what I'm saying to everyone is a study of history and the rhythms of history will show us what's next. You see, it's only going to take 1 or 2 college athletes to say, I'm not playing at the University of Missouri or the University of Texas or the University of Georgia. I'm not playing for the University of Florida. I'm not playing for the University of Mississippi. And it's only going to take 1 or 2. And people say, well, that's far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all, because when you continue to press people the way we're talking about now, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, the naked white supremacy will trigger a political consciousness among just enough people that can be converted into I'm not shopping there, ask Target how it works. The second thing it does is engender a sense of absurdity, and this is what the governor of California has tapped into by tweeting the way that Bozo is tweeting and revealing just how absurd it is. It will trigger a level of absurdity that will make what these white boys are trying to do so unsustainable to regular people. J.D. Vance looks and acts exactly like a Beverly Hillbilly. He's walking around in Union Station yesterday with that Pee Wee German Stephen Miller handing out Shake Shack mess and getting roundly booed and derided and laughed at by the people there. What I'm saying is it's a small step now to say, I'm not spending any money with anybody to support y'all, and I don't care whether they support you or not. If you Republicans vote this way, if you consolidate power, beautiful. Go right ahead. We're going to break your back in the stores. We're going to break your back on the athletic fields. We're going to withdraw our participation in your criminal political economy. And it's not going to take all of us to do it. It's only going to take a couple of people to do it. It's a couple of figures to do it. And I'm saying I'm enthusiastic because we are almost at that point. American history has shown us what comes next. All we need to do is be ready and act when the thing becomes so unsustainable that we can put the dagger in their heart. And this time when we break it, it's not coming back.
All right, folks. Hold tight 1 second. Our second hour is going to be quite powerful. Chuck Rocha, man, he has some tough words to say. And what he's got to say is what I've been saying. These white Democratic strategists, they need to go. They're the ones who keep losing elections. And so he's going to join us on today's show. Lots more we're going to talk about in the second hour of Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Fuck fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do the work that we do. Again, our game plan is to literally travel around this country, covering the issues that matter to our people, broadcasting from different cities around this country, not just being there in D.C., but that takes resources. It's as simple as that. And so we want to be able to feature people who are on the ground, feature local activists and local politicians who are doing the work. And so the goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. And that's what our focus is, okay? And so if you want to contribute to us, please do so by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. You want to give via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. The Stripe QR code, you see it right here. Use that QR code, click the Cash App Pay button to contribute. You can also use that QR code for the purpose of credit cards as well. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Again, checks and money orders, please make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change,
300,000 Black women being pushed out of the workforce.
This is shocking yet unsurprising.
So what happens when a bunch of Black mothers lose their federal job? Their kids are not being fed. Their kids are not being taken care of. But that trickles down to the entire community structure, which may be built on the backs of Black mothers and Black women more broadly.
Tune in on The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Folks, a New York appeals court threw out the nearly $500 million civil judgment against Donald Trump. Of course, in February of last year, a New York judge ordered Trump and his co-defendants to pay nearly $364 million to the state, citing what the court called ill-gotten gains. Now, they have been daily fines as well. In the decision, a justice from the appellate division, First Judicial Department, wrote that the penalty, technically a disgorgement, the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on excessive fines. Now, Trump hailed the decision in a post on Truth Social, claiming he's been totally vindicated, but he hasn't been totally vindicated because the conviction still stands. And, of course, Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, has made it clear they're going to appeal that decision. There are a lot of people, Nola, who are saying that, well, here he is, he's getting away with it again. But it's going to get appealed. This thing is going to go to the New York State Supreme Court, and we'll see what happens there. But at the end of the day, his ass still got convicted, and him and his children are still limited in what they can actually do in New York State as a result of this conviction.
Absolutely. And that's what matters. But, you know, we are living in a time where facts and details do not matter. The one thing that Trump has always understood is about perception more than anything. So to his base, absolutely, they're going to count it as a win. You know, they're going to be like, oh, you know, he's putting up all these wins. You have Stephen A. Smith out there talking about he done brokered 6-piece deals. It doesn't matter. Truth and details do not matter any longer. It's all about perception. So he's going to make this seem like it is the best thing ever happened. But to your point, and the thing that people don't often get a chance to see is behind the curtain. And this does have an impact. You think that man like sitting up in the White House that was once very beautiful in a people's house that's now, you know, tacky with all those gold ornaments all over the place. You think that man like sitting up there with 34 felonies? No, he does not. Because people will remind him, yes, you are a felon. It doesn't matter what sort of fake W's he tries to throw up. The reality is the reality. And his family will never be embraced in New York like they once were. They're not the kings and queens of anything, only in their fabricated minds and brains. So to your point, Roland, you know, he can tell his base anything he wants to tell them, but the reality of the situation, he's still sitting on 34.
Joy.
34 counts. That's all that counts. That's all that counts. Look, he has a lot of money. He can afford a lot of lawyers. So we know that it was going to be hard for us to really get any money from him. But the point was the conviction, and it's going to be appealed. It's going to be, and if we win, it'll be appealed again, et cetera, et cetera. What is not being erased, vindicated, exonerated are these 34 charges that he was convicted on. Okay. And the other things that he's being barred from accessing in New York. That's all that matters. The rest, I mean, you know, I know we have to talk about it, but when he travels to other countries that have bars on convicted criminals, they got to give him special leave because he's a crook.
Greg.
The law said it.
Yes, Roland. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, no, yeah, let me just echo. It's interesting. Tish James, of course, is going to appeal this. What the court did today was affirm the wrongdoing by Trump and the members of the Trump leadership of his corporation, including his two absurd sons, all of them barred from holding office in New York State, 3 years in case of Trump, 2 years in case of his sons, I think, or maybe I have it backward. But the point is that, as Attorney General James said today, that was affirmed. But as Dr. Haynes said, as Nola said, perception is reality for many of the lemmings and for the people who don't pay attention. So all you got to do is tweet out total victory and people believe that. Wasn't it excessive fine? We don't think so, but the court of law thought that it was, and it's going to be appealed. On appeal, maybe the number is lowered, but one thing is for clear, the conviction stands. And at the end of the day, what we are facing in this country is a person who is running roughshod over the perception of the rule of law. And in the short term, what that means is that this grifter, who will be riding around in D.C. because he is desperately trying to avoid being lashed to his sexual predator dead friend and his living friend, who is now at Club Fed in Texas, another convicted sexual predator. This is what all of this is about for Trump. So in the short term, he can claim this as a victory to his crowd. But in the longer term, what he is signaling is that this is a battle between those who believe in the rule of law and those who don't. The longer this goes on, the more I really think that what will happen on the other end of this Trump era is a redoubling and a recommitment to a different type of society that has never been in this country, and that will only be made possible by those that say, we now have a living, breathing example of what happens when you throw all concepts out of the window. If we survive this moment, I think it's going to be a very interesting aftermath, and I don't think it's going to be a negative one. And today is just going to be one more thing that is put in the annals.
All right, folks, let's talk about Democrats and Teamsters. Over the last year, if you will, there has been some points of contention. Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters president, he spoke at the Republican National Convention. That infuriated lots of Democrats, and he's not allowed to speak at the Democratic National Convention. Then the Teamsters did not endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. He comes out and says that she was arrogant, was expecting their endorsement. Well, this week, they also now are donating to a number of Republicans through their political action committee. At a high-energy rally this week called Benefits Over Billionaires in Atlanta, California Congressman Ro Khanna talked to a couple of hundred progressives at Teamsters Local 728 Hall, criticized the Trump tax cuts, called out Democrats for failing to deliver higher wages, and said that Democrats must do more for working people. He joins us right now. So, Congressman Khanna, this is what I saw a lot of reaction on social media, and I'm trying to understand. Democrats saved the ass of the Teamsters pension. That was Biden. That was Harris. That was Democrats in the House, in the Senate. It wasn't Republicans. And so we're talking about billions of dollars of pensions being saved. And so what I've heard from other people is saying, wait a minute, this is how you reward your friends? When Democrats took care of those pensions and O'Brien turns around and cozies up to Republicans?
Well, look, first of all, the President Biden and Vice President Harris had one of the most pro-labor administrations in modern history. They helped with my votes and others in Congress save the pensions. They pushed for the American Rescue Plan, the PRO Act, which would have given labor the strongest protections past the House. President Biden walked the picket line. But there are places that we've disappointed the Teamsters, most importantly in my home state. That was what I was talking about. I mean, the whole clip wasn't played. Twice there was legislation that came that said you need to have truck drivers protected over self-driving cars. And I, as a representative of Silicon Valley, stood with the Teamsters, Lorena Gonzalez, Sean O'Brien, and twice the governor vetoed that legislation. And they wanted more Democrats to speak out forcefully for that legislation. In 31 states in this country, truck driving is the biggest job. The second thing is, look, the Democrats have had a mixed record on labor. It was trucking deregulation starting in the late 70s and early 80s that hollowed out the working class. It was NAFTA that hollowed out the working class, white and black. It was China's ascension into the World Trade Organization that hollowed out the working class without.
I gotta stop. I gotta stop you. I gotta stop you right there because here's the problem with NAFTA. I'm born and raised in Texas, and the reality is, depending upon what state you're from, some people NAFTA was beneficial, and places like Ohio said it hurt them. Texas said it helped them, and so this saying it hollowed out the middle class. It depends upon what state you're talking about. And so that was also one of the issues.
Well, I think it's more complex. I hear your point on that. And I've opposed some of the tariffs, for example, on tomatoes for Mexico. But I just was in Mexico meeting with President Sheinbaum, and they'll tell you in Mexico, one of the consequences of NAFTA was that it totally annihilated farmers, corn farmers in Mexico. And my view is that NAFTA, as it was passed, was too much of a handout to corporations. They got to have this international dispute settlement where workers' rights weren't protected. The labor rights weren't protected, union rights weren't protected, and it hurt the working class both in the United States and in Mexico. And, you know, there were a lot of progressive Democrats who were opposed to that. But my point about NAFTA and China into the World Trade Organization and the deregulation of trucking is it's not like the Democrats have had a perfect record over the last 30, 40 years on working class issues. And we should acknowledge that, and we should work to build trust back with the Teamsters and with the unions we've lost. I mean, I didn't realize why that was such a controversial thing to say, look, we've lost certain working class voters. We've got to redouble our effort to build trust.
But this is where, again, this is where I believe GOP lies plays a part in this here. We talked about the pensions of Teamsters. That was $36 billion. That was $36 billion. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm Vice President Kamala Harris and I cast the deciding vote to save $36 billion in Teamsters pension, you damn skippy, I expect them to endorse me for president, and O'Brien didn't do that. And so the thing for and when I hear, and this is why I need specifics, because Bernie Sanders says the same thing. Oh, Democrats have abandoned the working class. I'm trying to understand it. If I had to hold up policies that have been passed by Democrats versus Republicans, let's say in the past 20 years, in terms of working class, I dare say Republican policies have done more damage to the working class, yet Republicans, they message as if they are the great saviors of the working class. So if we're talking about nationally, what 3 to 5 very specific items would you say that Democrats need to do to appeal to the working class? And let's be real clear, we talk about the working class, unfortunately, mainstream media, and they normally are talking about white workers. So what are those specific issues? What do you want to see actually passed that speaks to working class voters?
Well, first of all, let me acknowledge your point that Democrats have been better for the working class than Republicans. But the point is that neither party has prioritized the working and middle class enough, and that's why income inequality has soared. Secondly, it is just factually untrue that when we talk about the working class being hurt, that's the white working class. The black working class has been hurt in many cases worse with deindustrialization. I was up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I was talking to two African-American men who lost their jobs at Master Lock in 2022 because of NAFTA and those jobs going offshore. So the deindustrialization has hurt not just places like Johnstown, Pennsylvania, or Warren, Ohio. It's also hurt places like Milwaukee. It's hurt places like Dayton. It's hurt places in the South. And you ask me, so what do we need to do better? One, we need to pass and actually deliver on a raise in the minimum wage. Now, yeah, we tried. President Biden.
But wait, hold up. But stop right there. Okay, I'm going to do it one by one. Raise the minimum wage. Republicans do not support that. They don't support it. They're not going to go for it. You got the guy who's bringing back Bed Bath & Beyond complaining he's not going to open any stores in California because they've mandated a living wage. And so that's literally what you're dealing with. And so how do you – listen, it's come down to votes. Democrats, you don't control the House. You don't control the Senate. So the reality is that ain't happening. Republicans are not advancing raising the minimum wage. And so I know a lot of folks have been advocating for a living wage, $15 an hour or even higher. And so, again, saying we need that, how then do you get that if you're not in power? And Republicans ain't going to do it.
We had power. We had President Biden. We had the Senate and we had the House. And there were several of us, including back then. I said, let's fire the parliamentarian. I don't understand why the parliamentarian was standing in the way of a minimum wage increase. I said, let's call out senators who were standing in the way because of the restaurant lobby for getting the minimum wage increase. We didn't get anything. Now, I'm not criticizing President Biden or Vice President Harris in terms of advocating for it. I'm saying when we get power and we have the House and the Senate and the presidency, we need to actually deliver on some of this stuff. Now, you would say, well, okay, the Republicans are not going to do it. No, they're not going to do it. And they appeal in the cultural ways and other ways to whether it's standing for the Second Amendment or whether it's on the border or whatever the other issues are. My point is, though, that the best place where the Democrats win is when we have a robust economic message, the kind that FDR had or that Dr. King with the Freedom Budget, with Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph had, where we deliver on a populist progressive economic agenda, then we can win the broad working class. We don't win them often on other issues. And all I'm saying is let's be clearly for that as a party.
Well, I have to, I have to separate this here. You're winning black working class, you're winning Latino working class, you're not winning white working class. And see, at some point, I get everything that you're saying about a populist economic message, but let's be clear. White working class voters are consistently voting against their economic interests. So you can make this grand economic appeal to if you want to. That ain't why they're voting. All of these white working class people voted for Trump, and there's nothing about his agenda that's actually going to improve their lives. So how then do you target, and again, we have to separate this here. Black working class voters are different than Latino working class voters who are different from white working class voters. The Democratic problem is with white working class voters, and they vote for God gave guns. So how do you appeal to them if they are showing you they're voting against their own economic interests?
Well, first, Roland, and I imagine you would acknowledge this, and you know more about this than I do, but we lost of course, the black working class voted for us overwhelmingly, but we lost in 2024 some of the black working class compared to how we did in 2020 and other years. We lost people like the two gentlemen I'm talking in Wisconsin, one of them who lost his job, and his girl said, I think it was Quentin, his girl had a poster saying, "Daddy, I'm so sorry you lost your job at 12. And he told me that for a young black person in Milwaukee today, he thinks the economics are more difficult than they were back in the 1960s, when we still were fighting for civil rights. So,
first of all, I don't know how old that guy was, but Congressman, that's bullshit. I mean, listen, I know people run around and they say, "Oh my God, I think it was worse now than it was then." They're full of shit, because if they weren't there, then they don't know that. And we all know how awful the economics were in the 1960s when black people could not get jobs in corporate America, could not get any capital, couldn't get loans. And so when I hear anybody today say that crap, unless they were actually alive then, to me, I'm not buying it. But I understand your point in terms of frustration among African Americans when we talk about what's happening economically. But again, the point I'm making is this here. Democrats do not have a black working class problem. They do not have, they have a white working class problem. So again, you got to explain to me, how are you going to appeal to white working class voters who literally are voting against their own economic interests? The Affordable Care Act, Medicaid expansion, ties directly into a family's economics. SNAP benefits ties into that as well. Republicans want to cut all those things, and these white working class folks, they're loving them some Trump. So how are you going to counter that?
Well, first, I'm going to answer your question. But first, on the black economic agenda, I think the Democratic Party needs to do a lot more. We need to bring more capital.
I agree.
We need to bring more technology jobs. We need to bring more industry. And I think that the deindustrialization hurt black Americans, the black South, the most. And by the way, when William Julius Wilson was writing about this, no one paid attention. It's only later on when it started to hurt white working class communities, and Deaton and Case and others came along, that the country said, oh, we've got a deindustrialization problem. The deindustrialization problem hurt the black South in black cities before it hurt anyone. And so I think we have to have a
Congressman Khanna, I trust me. Listen, everything you're talking about, I deal with these every single day. I am not saying I am advocating for a black agenda, but that's not why you're losing. You are losing white working class voters. And what I need to know is, how are you going to convince a white working class voter to vote for Democrats when Democrats have advanced issues? When you talk about the stimulus plan under Obama, do you know who that saved Elkhart, Indiana's ass, the RV capital of the world? And you know what happened when the election came around? Them white folks in Elkhart, Indiana, they sat there and rolled with Trump over Hillary Clinton. When you talk about what Biden did with the various bills, the infrastructure bill, broadband funding, all of those things, guess what those white rural working class voters did? They ran to Trump. So again, and I've asked the same question to Senator Bernie Sanders. You have to separate this here. How are you going to convince a white working class voter where you've passed things that benefit them, but they still vote Republican every time? West Virginia is one of the brokest, most illiterate, sickest states in the union. So when you talk about education, when you talk about government funding, when you talk about health care, and you know what? Them white folks there, they vote for Republicans left and right. We could talk about Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, on and on and on. So I still need to know, how do you convince a white working class voter to vote Democrat when they are in love with Donald Trump and the Republican Party?
Give you my answer, then I want to hear yours. First of all, President Obama convinced them twice through inspiration, charisma, and showing up. But I think what you have to do is you have to first show up in these communities. You have to show up and understand a lot of the anger and the pain of communities that lost industrial factories, where their kids often may not have the same good paying jobs that they have, where they see a decline over the last 30 to 40 years. They say, hey, Ro's family, they just got here. They didn't fight in the wars. Now look at Silicon Valley. There's all this wealth there. What happened to us? Where do we see our future? And I think you have to go into those communities and say, we see you, we hear you, and we're going to have huge change where we're going to actually get factories there. We're actually going to get new jobs there, new industry there, and make that connection. Now, you can say President Biden did some of those policies, and he did. He did the CHIPS Act. He did the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't think we were present in the communities enough. I don't think we did the outreach enough. I don't think it was enough of an economic agenda, and people said, hey, they're both the same. We've got to do the extra mile of convincing people. And then finally, I believe that you have to show, as in our best traditions, from Frederick Douglass to King to Obama, that we see the best of this country. And I think if you go into those communities and say, look, to be ahead of China, to win the 21st century, it's going to take all of us. And we have a vision that all of us can succeed together. and you're able to articulate that with conviction, I think that the majority of this country will come along. And that's the type of leadership it takes.
So let me give, before I go to my panel, let me say what I think needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think what y'all are going to have to do is do what Democrats are frankly afraid to do, and that is go to the belly of the beast. If you're a Democrat, and I've said this to Sanders, I don't give a shit he's going out to Colorado and Nevada. No. What I said to him directly when I met with him a few years ago, I said the same thing to Senator Elizabeth Warren and the others. They need to be going to the brokest, sickest, most illiterate parts of red America and literally say, y'all do know y'all are the brokest, the sickest, and the most illiterate, and show them the numbers. And then y'all got to be able to look them in the eye and say, I need the people in this room to answer me, why are y'all still voting against your interests? I need, and walk them through, show them their health care numbers, show them their education numbers, show them the economic numbers, and then literally say and put on charts and say, so explain this to me. How in the world this United States senator, and here's my whole deal. I want to see Democrats go to Kentucky and have town halls across Kentucky and say, this county, how much you got SNAP benefits, you got Medicaid, all these costs, all this stuff is getting wiped out. But why y'all keep voting for that congressman? Why do y'all keep voting for that United States senator? To me, that's what you got to do. Stop going to the suburbs of Ohio and Virginia and Michigan and trying to appeal just to them. But that is what has to happen. If you're unwilling, I mean, hell, Fred Hampton, one of the Black Panthers, was aligning with broke white men in West Virginia. Broke white men in West Virginia were sitting with Fred Hampton in Chicago saying, you're speaking my language. I think the problem is, and we're going to discuss it next with Chuck Rocha, is straight up, you got too many sorry, trifling ass white Democratic strategists who don't want to have the real conversations, and Democrats are going to have to challenge white working class voters head on. You can't nibble around the corners. You can't sit there and dance around it. Y'all got to look them in the eye and say, I need y'all to explain. We delivered this. We delivered this. We delivered this. We delivered this. This is your health care, your education, and your economics. But your county, your congressional district, your state continues to vote for Republicans. Why?
Well, look, we agree on a lot of it. I mean, that's what Reverend Jesse Jackson did in his 1988 and 1984 campaign. He got a lot of white working class voters. And Jonathan Jackson, his son, is today in Congress and doing that. And I was just in rural Nevada, in Amadei's district, making exactly that point to white rural working class folks. Now, there are other folks there as well, but I've gone to rural Nebraska. I've gone to western Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I've gone to Paintsville, Kentucky. It's not that we're not going and making the case. I think we have to go. We have to make the case. You know, there's a famous Dr. King's speech where he said that they fed Jim Crow to people who are poor and white as the solution, as opposed to an economic agenda. And as you know better than I do, that's why Dr. King adopted the freedom agenda, the freedom budget that Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph had authored. All I'm saying is, why not, Roland, when we go there, run on the freedom agenda? Why not run on the Economic Bill of Rights? Because that's going to break through.
Questions for my panel. I will start with you, Greg.
Professor,
Greg's
I'm sorry,
audio.
I'm not going to be able to hear you.
I can't hear.
I'm sorry. Here I am. Yes, I am.
We
Sorry.
can't hear Greg.
I was unmuted.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Roland. And thank you, Representative Khanna. You mentioned Silicon Valley, and first of all, I think this is a very important conversation. I don't think we hear this anywhere else, because that intersection of race and class, something that's been very difficult for the progressives to manage. I know you've endorsed Brother Mamdani in New York, and your ideological commitments allow you to be in conversation with a lot of people across the spectrum of the Democratic Party. even as we saw yesterday's New York Times talk about the Democratic Party is lagging and losing some voter registration, which I don't know what that's a proxy for, because I don't know those people that are necessarily going to go vote right wing. But you've talked about J.D. Vance being the kind of intellectual cover for Trumpism. I wonder if you have any thoughts about where we are headed in terms of the political trajectory of the two-party system in this country and the real threats that are maybe past Donald Trump as a personality. Any thoughts on what we should be preparing for if we don't meet this moment in terms of Trumpism and post-Trumpism in terms of the threat of J.D. Vance, some of these tech guys who are trying to leverage some of this white nationalism, and what the progressives are saying with the rise of a Mamdani and some of these coalitions that people might try to shoehorn into a two-party system, but in fact speaking maybe to something beyond a two-party system?
Well, Greg, that's
not sure what happened to the
Peter Thiel.
Okay.
They didn't want him to answer that question.
Guys, can we get the Congressman back? What the hell happened?
Sorry.
All right,
Sir?
Congressman Ro Khanna, we have you back? There we go.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. That was a profound question, Greg. Let me say this. J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, has a view of a hierarchy of Americans. I mean, go look, as you know, his speech. He said, you're as American if you can trace your generations back here. He doesn't view me as American because I can only trace my generation back, to my parents are immigrants. And most black people in this country did not fight in the Revolutionary War. They were not able to fight in all of the wars. And so he views them as less American. And the real fear in this country is post-1965. My grandfather spent 4 years in jail in Gandhi's independence movement. That leads to the Civil Rights Movement. That leads to the 1965 Immigration Reform Act. And suddenly this country says, okay, if you're from India, if you're from Africa, if you're from a country that is not European, you can come to America. And that has scared a lot of people in America. It has scared a lot of people. And so you say to me, well, what is this fight? This fight, in my view, is very simple. Are we going to go towards what Frederick Douglass prophesied in the composite nation in 1869, a nation of all nations, a people of all backgrounds, where your allegiance is to the Constitution and to the principles? Or are we going to be a society that is where race and religion define your hierarchy as Americans? That is the fundamental fight. And I get that fight. And those people who say it's all about economics, they don't understand that there's something deeper here. This is a question of, do you want to be a cohesive multiracial democracy? All I'm saying is, if we show up in these communities that where people are hurting, and if we have a compelling economic message, maybe it can be a foundation to that higher calling for a cohesive multiracial democracy. And my view is it's nothing original. This is, I think, the lesson that Dr. King and others had towards the end of the civil rights movement, where they said, look, we've got to have an economic freedom agenda, an economic agenda maybe empowering us to build this cohesive democracy.
Nola.
Hello, Representative a few things. So I'm just recently moved from California, and you may not remember, but this time last year, maybe about a month or two or so ago, a year ago, we were at a retreat together in Virginia when we were trying to figure out what was going to happen after the Biden-Trump debacle. And I remember sitting in the back yelling because people weren't talking about Kamala Harris, and me and another friend, we were in the back yelling during a panel that you were holding, what about the Black woman? So my question is, as we are having a conversation about real Southern strategy, real deep engagement, beyond just a few representatives going to the South every now and then, there really needs to be a real Southern strategy. The South needs to be a part of what's going to happen next. I am a native Southerner. And the last thing I will say, my question is this. Also, while there needs to be a Southern strategy, Black people also need to be included in the decision-making process. We're going to have a conversation in a little bit about the white consultant class, but where's the base? How will the base be included in decision-making? And what will a real Southern strategy look like?
I couldn't agree with you more. And look, I think we have to learn. I think that the moral conscience has come from the South. I was recently with Benny Thompson in Tunica at the conference that he does every year. Why? Not because I had much to offer, because I wanted to learn. And there I was at Jackson State, where I set up a technology program at Jackson State, and I got to go to Medgar Evers' home. I'd never been to Medgar Evers' home because of the history. Because my presence in this country would not be possible if it was not for the debt of the civil rights movement. And all I would say is this, that more people need to be open to learning about the history, to having the conversations, to figuring out the economic agenda there and the moral agenda there. And also, look, when I came on, I know Roland was going to be fair, but give me a tough questioning on the Teamsters thing. But more people have to be open about having honest conversations about race and class in this country. And we're so afraid. We're so afraid of having those difficult conversations. We need to have those open conversations honestly. We have to have humility in what we may not know, and we need to build a coalition. The great news is, if we actually build this coalition, where now you have the Indian American community, the grandson of someone who was part of Gandhi, part of Silicon Valley and Capitol, and you have the freedom movement of the civil rights movement, and if we build a multiracial coalition, we can actually get to a multiracial democracy today more than probably any time in American history. And that's why the fight is so worth having.
I'm up against the clock. Joy, quick question and quick answer. Go.
First of all, love that answer and love you, Congressman. Quick, what are the Democrats doing? What is your role in making them improve their message and do exactly what you are saying? You are a leader. What are you doing about it?
I think I think first, look, I'm all up for fighting, and I appreciate what our governor is doing in California, pushing back. I appreciate that that Hakeem Jeffries and others have been pushing back strongly. I mean, Hakeem spoke all during the night to make sure that the vote on the Build Back Better was in the middle of the day, and I appreciate that. But I think we can at the same time go and listen. And we need to learn, and we have to go into communities and say, what is the agenda that you want in these grassroots communities, and how do we build a fresh vision and a fresh agenda that's going to inspire people? And that's why I love traveling around the country. I've gone to white working class folks. I've been in at HBCUs. I've been to communities in the Southwest that are rural. I think we got to get out of Washington, D.C. and rebuild this movement from the ground up. And then finally, I think we've got to study history. I mean, we had great leaders who've shown us the way forward on an economic message and civil rights message. In my view, that was the heart of what Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph, I know I've cited them a few times, but they're incredible. I mean, why not just run on the freedom budget and some of those principles, which combine, in my view, race, class, and build the type of coalition that can win in this country.
All right, then. Congressman Khanna, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Last thing, when you're doing those things, are y'all live streaming those things?
We do, and but I'd love to have you, I'd love to have you come out to one of them with me. Would you do it?
You got to be careful what you ask for, because trust me, I'm going to be a little rough on them white working class voters. But
let's go to a white working class community together. Let's go to one of them. We'll go maybe with John. I've done a bunch with John Jackson. Let's go together and do one. And we'll. All
right, we'll do it, but it's going to be rough on some of them folks. So you just let me know when you want to make that happen. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back with Democratic leader Chuck Rocha. He's got some tough words for these white strategists. Y'all don't want to miss this conversation. That's next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Yeah, I'm live at O'Hare Airport. Passengers are coming by. People who support the show shout me out. So we'll be back in a moment.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Black Americans have 1/10 the wealth of their white counterparts. But how did we get here? It's a huge gap. Well, that's why we need to know the history and what we need to do to turn our income into wealth. Financial author and journalist Rodney Brooks joins us to tell us exactly what we need to do to achieve financial success.
You can't talk about why we are, as Black people, where we are, unless you talk about how we got here.
Bridging the Gap and Getting Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be, it's going to be good.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Roland Martin, Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. I saw a series of tweets by Chuck Rocha, who's a Democratic operative, and he had some tough words blasting white Democratic strategists as part of the problems for Democrats. Chuck joins us right now. Chuck, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I got a Chicago police officer who once asked me to have permission to do my show from here, even though I'm in the corner, so I've done it before. But anyway, but of course, I called the mayor of Chicago to say you need to talk to him. Chuck, you were highly critical, and what you're spot on where I've been, where these white Democratic strategists won't listen and they keep running the same nonsensical campaigns every single day.
This is true, and it's one of the most underreported things in Democratic politics. People understand on this show especially the importance of Black voters, Latino voters, Asian voters to the Democratic coalition. And every year we talk about how important Black women are the backbone of this party and Latino voters are the persuadable universe. We got to get back this emerging AAPI electorate that we've got to talk to. The thing that's missing in all of these campaigns is there's no consultants, the folks actually making budgetary decisions that look like any of these communities. I like to say the diversity ends where the money begins, because there's plenty of our kind of people, working class, brown people, Black people that are staffing folks or working as staffers, but none of us. I've been doing this for 34 years, going back to when I worked for Ann Richards in Texas. My firm is the largest minority-owned political consulting firm in the nation. We've hired, trained, and mentored 135 young brown and Black kids. That's more than every firm in D.C. combined, because there's just not a way to break into a network that's built around the good old boy and good old girl system if you're not from that system. And it's built like that on purpose, but because it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry. And that was fine in the beginning when black folks were voting for Democrats at 95%, Latinos were voting for them at 75%. But now, as the second, third, fourth generation of these folks have come of age and the internet happened, you can't just run the same old campaign and get the same results, brother.
Yep. And Chuck, what they're doing is they are so hard-headed, they won't listen. I can't tell you the issues that I have personally had when it comes to getting interviews, when it comes to getting advertising, and it's these white campaign strategists who control the money, who control the access, they control everything, and they literally tell black candidates what they can and cannot do. And I'm like, what are you doing? They don't put money on the ground. They want to put all the money on television, and it's crazy.
Your point is exactly right, and I hear the frustration because you and me are of a certain age and a certain time, and we remember how things used to be. It's much different now because even when you have a black candidate, and I hate to say this, or a Latino candidate, every Latino and black candidate in America that's running for federal office, listen to me, write this down, all have a white media and a white polling consultant. Some of them may have Cornell or have Tarrant doing polling, but 99% of them all have a media consultant or a polling consultant that's owned by a white woman and a white man. Now, here's what's different. Now that certain Democratic parties, the party committees or the super PAC where there's lots of money, have started wisely demanding diversity in consulting. This is the good side of this system, where the DCCC and Senate Majority PAC and others have said, look, we got a problem with Latino voters. Our performance is down with black voters. We want to have black and Latino consultants, and they're demanding that. And I give my hat literally to them. What I've seen, and just gonna make you crazy, what I've seen these white consulting firms do then is go out and hire them a black senior staffer or Latino senior staffer. They'll have them in the meeting, but they have no power or no into any of these campaigns, and they're getting around the system because it's all about the money.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, United. Hold on. Okay, thanks. Chuck, sorry about that. I'm having an issue here. You got a police officer who's stopping me from doing the show, and I'm like, what the hell? If I was on a Zoom, you wouldn't be stopping me. So I had to, I tried not to flex, Chuck, but I had to call the mayor. So that was the mayor calling me back. So while you were talking, so my apologies. But we got it straightened out. The mayor is taking care of this. So again, this is a perfect example. That's what's a good thing when you have black mayors who you can pick up the phone and call when you got problems like that. So all right, let's get back to the conversation.
Think about if you had a black congressman, if you had a black senator, black candidate, and they had folks from the community as part of their team, we would have closer connection to that power. You just flex that,
right? And the thing, see, right? And this is my struggle with these damn campaigns. They don't even listen to the black people on the campaign. Let me tell you what happened during Hillary Clinton's campaign. It was insane. There were several African Americans, two, Jameer Burley and Zerlina Maxwell, who would appear on my TV One show, talking about politics. Well, they then get hired by the campaign to reach out to do media, reach black people. They get hired by the campaign, then I couldn't get them on the show. And I'm like, why did y'all hire them? Then what was crazy is I was calling trying to get black male surrogates on the show. They had white campaign staffers who didn't know black people, who didn't know black media, and I could never get them on the damn show. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing? And so when you look at the hierarchy, who runs it, who controls the money, who controls the advertising, who controls the interviews, and this thing happens over and over again. So it happens at presidential campaigns, U.S. Senate races, congressional races, gubernatorial races, state rep, state senate, all down the line. And I keep saying, and I'm very specific, Chuck, and I was on CNN, on MSNBC, on ABC saying the problem is white Democratic strategists, and they get, oh my God, he's criticizing us. But that's the problem we're facing. They are so arrogant, they won't listen to people of color who are from the communities, and then they want to proclaim, hey, we're the experts at getting people elected.
Let me pull the curtain back a little bit because I get to work and do a lot of stuff and work on a lot of campaigns. And what you've seen is there's a bifurcation or a split in where the real money and power in campaigns are. And I mentioned earlier how some of the super PACs and the party committees are now doing better work. They're hiring Black consultants, they're hiring Latino consultants, they have Latinos and African Americans in charge of budget, and they're doing good work. They're literally saving congressional races. And we are allowed Black and Latino consultants to be in there, and we've done some of the best work. That's how we picked up 4 congressional seats in Latino districts in a year that Kamala Harris did so bad. But to your point, where we're doing really bad is where the real power, and you just flexed it with the mayor of Chicago, is the candidate work. With the candidate is where the real power and influence comes in public policy and in that relationship. If you have that relationship with that state rep that runs for Congress and then runs for governor and then for president one day, you're around this power structure that there's not a lot of Black folks, Latino folks around, because that's where we're not allowed to be in that space because it's a good old boy and good old girl system. So we make a living. There's lots of us making a living in the independent expenditure space, working for nonprofits, working for Black PAC, working for Voto Latino, and these orgs, because there's so much money in the space. We can literally make a living without working for the candidates. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, and here's, and again, I want the people who are watching to understand, Chuck, and we have these conversations, and we know what's going on here. I think back, again, I'm going to go back to Kamala Harris's campaign. So what was the PAC? Priorities Forward? What was the PAC? It was the
FF.
Okay, Future Forward. That's what it was. I think that's what it was.
Future Forward.
Let me tell you how arrogant they were. Chuck, I called, I emailed, I texted. They wouldn't even respond. They wouldn't even hit me back. They wouldn't even meet. They were spending money. They literally were like, yeah, we ain't got to talk to him. We ain't talk to him. And I was talking to other people who said, hey, I've already called and told them. No, they Future Forward never responded to an email. And the guy who was running it, I got his text. I got his cell phone number. He never responded. And it was kind of like, whatever the hell. And then we find out 71% of their money was spent on television. And they were just burning ads in other places. And this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. And so here we are trying, we're trying to encourage people, reach people, talk to them. And these white strategists who go out and raise all this money. And here's the other issue, Chuck. It's the donor class. These are the people who they keep giving the money to. And so what are we seeing now? Oh, Democrats, they weren't talking the digital shows and podcasts. And you know what? Guess what happened? The same white strategists all of a sudden are setting up new companies, coming up with ways to reach digital strategists. This is real simple for all Democrats. YouTube has a top 100, or even progressive. YouTube has a top 100 podcast list. I'm the only Black news person on it. Last week was number 40, this week number 49. Only one. Everybody else is Black. Hey, it's sports and entertainment. But do you think any of those folks are going to be calling and say, hey, we should be advertising on his show? No, because you know what they say, Chuck? We spend enough money on Black people. We're going to put this money on white suburban women. And then when they lose and Black people don't turn out, then they want to blame Black people for they candidate losing.
It's a never-ending cycle that me and you have dealt with, and you know that there's somebody there giving them misinformation because a lot of time the candidate knows, and they have a good feeling about it, but they're told by a consultant. Again, me and my wife have this argument all the time. She's like, nobody knows what a consultant does. They don't understand what your job is. Y'all at home should know that a lot of people who run for office for the first time, they really give away everything to the consultant to make the decision because they're scared to death that they're going to do something wrong. And they're well-intentioned. They don't want to do something that's not right. So if the consultant says, look, you ain't got to go on Roland's show. He's a little crazy. He's out there. He's calling people out. You don't want to stir no trouble because we take these candidates, these consultants, and they wrap them in bubble wrap, and they don't want them to do anything outside of what they normally should be doing. And that's why Democrats are in the position that we've been in, because somebody then fills that void like a Donald Trump, who's just spewing everything, lies, and folks are believing a big part of it because Democrats look so constructed when they talk, and they're never actually coming across as real people. And when you have connection to real people like you do, Roland, you talk to people, the real people, then folks are intimidated by you or by me. I'm a little bit of a mouthy East Texas consultant, who talks my shit, but I've done it a long time. I'm not good because I just started this the other day. I'm good because I've done it and messed up a lot. So I try not to do that thing and mess up anymore.
There you go. And Chuck, and listen, the stuff those white strategists were saying about me, I know what they said about me in the Biden campaign and the Harris campaign and the other campaigns and the same thing. Because what they want, and I'm going to go ahead, before I go to my panel, it's real clear. They want safe black people. They want safe Latinos. It's like, who can we control? So we're going to fund them. We want to kick money to them. And see, then I had, of course, these crazy black folks mad at me talking about, well, you got $350,000 from the Kamala Harris campaign. Chuck, do you know why people know how much I got? Because I told the Harris campaign, I'm not wasting time with your white media companies nickel and diming me. If y'all gonna buy advertising, y'all gonna buy direct. I'm not going through them where they come in with a big bullshit metric games when the white media ain't got to put up any metrics. And so people were like, well, you got 350,000. First of all, I should have got 3.5 million. They spent more than $1 billion and only, when you look at only, according to one analysis, only $22 million of the Harris campaign was spent on black-owned media.
And $33 million was spent on Spanish language advertising from the same campaign. And you just said what was spent on general market. So that will tell you that I think now, I keep saying this every cycle, but I do think this now. We've hit rock bottom as a party with a lot of support from working class folks, a lot of young black folks, a lot of young Latino folks. And folks y'all should know, I should have started with this, is that I'm the only senior national Democratic consultant who's never been to college. I got a criminal record. And I was a teenage father. Any one of those three things should have kept me out of politics. And I'm all three of those. And I'm mouthy. And I run the most successful minority-owned political consulting firm in the country. That means that there is still hope for lots of us to do good work. And I think the Democratic Party now, to Roland's point, who, even though they're creating their own media systems, are going to say, look, we have to do things differently, because if we continue to do what they're doing, they're just going to continue to lose. That's my hope, and that's what I try to cling to every day.
Absolutely.
It's going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I have been very vocal, and then I had somebody say, well, what about Republicans? I said, Republicans, and here's what I told them. Republicans won't call me for advertising, but you know what they did? They were running ads on my YouTube channel going through YouTube. See, so that's what they were doing. They were running ads on black shows by going to YouTube, but not going to the show. So folks need to recognize game. I want to go to my panel. Joy, first question, your question for Chuck. Go.
I mean, this was the best conversation we've had, and this is wonderful. Can you just tell me what is, just underscore for people, why it's not enough to simply hire black, brown, female, whomever strategists that work for big firms? Because there are some of them who are saying, you have to support me too, but the money doesn't go to them and they don't have their voice. I said it, but I want you to say it.
That's true. And there's also something that you're not saying that we haven't spoke about, and that is there's a lot of folks who have lived a certain lifestyle that went to really good schools. We have a lot of master's degree holding national political consultants trying to figure out how to reach working class folks. We got a lot of well-meaning white folks trying to figure out how to talk to black women. We got a lot of well-meaning white folks trying to figure out that not all Latinos are the same. There's a difference between Puerto Ricans and Mexicans, and some of us even wear cowboy hats. The biggest difference to what you're talking about is if you have a young black brother, sister, or Latino in that firm, and they're doing it, it's not so much that they don't have power, and they don't, but they're not making the ad. They're not part of the creative team. That's still a group of white production, and that's the key.
And the thing is, because when you have cultural competence, you know what phrases work, what tone works, what messaging works. Nola, question, go.
Thank you so much for your scrappiness. And that is my question as a black woman, because I feel like we are invisible and visible at the same time, and we can't always show up our full selves. And when we do, we get dinged for it. Do you think, not do you think, but how do you see gender, not just the race component, But gender, how does that work in a consulting class? We can be in the room, but we can't be too loud.
Yeah, and
Thank
you're
you for
right.
everything you do.
And part of what you're saying, you should know this, and this will shock people because how we talk about black women being the backbone of the party, as we should, is there's not one majority black female-owned media firm in the Democratic Party. When we do black media,
boom,
big races, I have seen these, let's just call them PACs and party committees and others who demand that we have black-owned firms have to go to commercial America. Folks that are making commercials to reach black people from Coca-Cola, they bring them in to do because there's not a black woman-owned media firm in modern politics today. Because y'all know, I know, because I'm the CEO of my firm, it takes a lot of capital and a lot of risk, and I ain't got no backup plan. Ain't nobody in my family gonna give me no money. So when you have that structure built like that, it just keeps people out. And then if you are a little mouthy, like Chuck Rocha, I won't say it about you, but some black women or somebody else who just has an opinion, then you're some troublemaker, to Roland's point. And you're not going along to get along. And the only reason I can come over here and talk about this is I've been doing it for 35 years. I'm senior statesman now. They're going to hire me. I'm going to do the ads, but it also, they know I'm going to demand diversity. And it's not the party committees or the super PACs. I'm telling you, they have hired 14 black and brown firms on all this. It's the candidates. Because let me finish with this, Roland. The candidates, guess what else they do, Roland? Yep. They pay full commission at the candidate level. When you go to work for the PAC, or Black PAC or somebody else, they ain't got that kind of money, so they're paying a reduced commission on the buy. But if you're working directly for the candidate, you get that full pretty commission, which has built a lot of white consultants, that beach house down at the coast, you know?
Boom. That's why they got the yacht, the second home, all that sort of stuff. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Chuck. Chuck, I'm thinking about the lawsuit that y'all filed years ago, almost 20 years ago, the Lulac versus Perry lawsuit, of course, dealing with the last time that the Republicans tried to mess in Texas with redistricting. And I'm thinking about it in terms of their attempt to turn brown folk against black folk with saying, oh, we're expanding access and we've got these Latina districts. What is the way, in the wake of what seems to be certain redistricting in Texas, what is the way to enter these gerrymandered districts at this late date and turn these folk who are being used against each other into a coalition? Is there a way to do it? What role do you think at this point the consultants can have? Because I doubt it's about television ads at this point, at this late date. But what are your thoughts, particularly since you've been through these wars many times? And again, I'm thinking about it in the context of Lulac versus Perry. What are the ways that we can move at this point to build the kind of coalitions that can make this redistricting effort backfire on these white nationalists?
There's two things. You have to disqualify the Republicans in a common pain in what they're doing that is a pain to black folks, brown folks, Asian folks, and mostly working class folks, even a bunch of white rednecks where I grew up in trailer houses down the road from me. And that is things that you can tangibly point to, which is not me and you got the problem, but what they're doing to me and you. When they cut SNAP benefits, when they cut Medicaid, it affects both these communities. And this is where you show what those people are doing for us. But Democrats, the second piece of this is what we really suck at. And that is then telling an aspirational story about what you're going to do to help lift these folks up and give them an opportunity to do other things, whether it's get them a job, help them do whatever, healthcare, education. In every community, it's a little different. We do a good job at saying Donald Trump is crazy and that they doing this thing. But going in and focusing on a common, not say villain, but a common hurt. I talk about that hunger don't got a color. I talk about how pain don't have a feeling of girl or boy. It's a common struggle that we have to get back to. And as organizers, me as an old labor organizer, that's something that we've forgotten about a lot with the party, is that organizing around a common pain.
Well, listen, Chuck, you nailed it. And the thing that I'm trying, and I'm telling you right now, I've made it perfectly clear. I have said this to the DSCC, to DCCC, to all these folks. Don't call me begging trying to get candidates on and you ain't spending no damn ad money. Not when I'm seeing your ads running elsewhere. Because you know what? Like, I'm standing right here at I had a speech in Milwaukee at noon. I got to catch a 9 o'clock flight, and this is the only way I could get back home tonight. And so I'm literally set up right now in the airport. Well, guess what? These lights and this tripod and this camera and this live view streaming unit and the portable batteries, all this stuff costs money. It all costs money. I got people in the chat right now complaining about YouTube running commercials while you were talking. Well, guess what? When we ain't getting advertising money, that's the only way we can actually generate money. We got to scrap to make this thing happen. And to your point about these firms, it is nonsensical. They barely use black posters. And then what they do is, like, out of all these campaigns, you don't see major black-owned firms coming out of these campaigns because the reality is they're not going to get the work from the next candidate. And what these folks do, they lose a race and they just go to the next one. And they collect those big commissions. And the reason they want to dump all that money on television, because they get a percentage of the ad buys. That's why they don't want to put the money on the ground. And so I hope with this reckoning that is real. But I want to tell you right now, I've told some people perfectly clear, don't come to me begging in 2026, because if you don't have the ad money, I can talk about anything else I want to, and I ain't got to lift a damn finger. But what's not going to happen, Chuck, is if they're going to sit here and play this game of coming offering a crumb and trying to convince me it's a meal.
And I appreciate you. And as somebody who's done this a long time, there's not very many platforms like this one. It's what makes it special. You should be compensated for how special it is. And now you've built this with your team. I've built my firm with my team. Folks like us don't have a lot of backup, like I said before. So know that I see you and I appreciate it. And I think that we'll have much more conversations as we go forward. And we should think about teaming up and doing some black-brown stuff together.
Hey, Chuck, let's do it, because here's the deal. I own it. I ain't got to ask nobody. Congressman Ro Khanna was just on, and he asked me, he said, hey, come to me, do one of these town halls with white working class voters. I said, I'll be there, but it's going to be a little rough for them when I start talking. So let's make it happen. And I'm always happy to hang with a fellow Texan. I was traveling, so I didn't have my cowboy hat, but trust me, I got about 25 of them at the house.
No, I know. I've been watching you. You know that, brother. I like it. I don't come on here this late at night on a weekday, on a school night for anybody, but I do it for you, brother. Let me know, and let's do it again soon.
Chuck, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Thanks a lot. Folks, that's it for us. Let me thank Greg, Nola, and Joa for being on today's panel. I appreciate y'all being on the panel. Thank you so very much. Hey, folks, listen, y'all, I see the chat. A lot of y'all were complaining about the commercials running. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, okay? We make most of our money from YouTube. And the reality is, if more people were giving, then I wouldn't have to run those commercials during the middle of the show. We can put them when we go on a commercial break. But the bottom line, y'all, this show cannot be done if we don't generate any revenue. I'm just being straight up. Y'all, the conversation we just had, y'all, is a real conversation. Our bills are real. The cost of our space went up. Our gear, our equipment, our live streaming unit, staffing, all that stuff costs money. And so a lot of y'all who are on YouTube watching right now, I'm going to be real honest. A lot of y'all haven't given. Y'all watching for free. So if you complain about the ads and you've never given, hello, what's going on? And so when you hear me make this appeal, do understand our expenses are real. It's $195,000 a month for all the network shows. All the things that we do, all the infrastructure, this stuff is real. So when you hear me calling out ad agencies like Group M, who don't spend money with black-owned media, who give us the runaround for the last 3-4 years, this is part of the reason. And so your support is needed. Let's wrap this up because I got to go catch my flight. So do me a favor. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please give via Cash App. This is the QR code right here. You'll see it right here, the QR code for Cash App. Check some money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Support Get Our Swag. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to get a Roland Martin Unfiltered t-shirts, mugs, wall art, all that good stuff. Support our Black-owned businesses. Their products at shopblackstarnetwork.com. You see them all on my news desk. This is where you can get all the Black-owned products right there, of course, there as well. And, of course, don't forget, download the app Fanbase. Be sure to get the app. And if you want to contribute to the raise, get more information at startengine.com/fanbase. Pull the photo up, y'all. Let me thank the folks at the Milwaukee Business Council. I spoke to them today. We live streamed that event. Y'all should have the photo. The girl wore our I told y'all download 10 minutes ago. All right. So anyway, I'll show the shirt tomorrow. But I had a great time there. We live streamed my fireside chat. Go to our YouTube channel to see that conversation as well. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow from D.C. right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!